Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. Today, I get to revisit one of my absolute favorite craft distilleries. And if they're not on your radar yet, they need to be. I'm going to talk about why. I've talked about them before in the channel. So I'll give you a quick recap on who they are, what they're about, and then we'll try the whiskey. First up is the Red Ryder Rye. I have reviewed this fully on the channel, and it's phenomenal. It's one of my favorite craft distillery bottles, and it's completely like farmed bottle. Everything they do right there. But we're going to compare it then to the same thing, except one, well, I suppose two major differences. One is that they didn't smoke the oats. So with this one, what they're doing with their mash is they're doing some smoked oats in the mash, which gives it an incredibly unique flavor. This one is like just the Red Ryder Rye without the smoked oats. The other major difference is the proof point. This is 112.4. So now we get to see what the distillate tastes like without the smoked oats. Let me pour these. Let me talk a little bit about Rockfilter. All right, big shout out to Robert, aka Catcher Giraffe, in our Discord for sending me samples from his bottles. Appreciate that. I don't have the Red Ryder Rye on me currently. I killed my only other bottle, and I haven't restocked it yet, but I would like to. So who's Rockfilter? Okay, so they are coming out of Minnesota. So Rockfilter is coming out of Minnesota. It is run by the CEO, the founder, is an ex-Navy fighter pilot, right? So retired. He did like actual combat tours. Pretty cool guy. Ended up coming back home, decided he didn't want to get shot at anymore, and he'd rather make whiskey. So he had like everything he needed for a distillery, minus the still at the time. You know, he had the farm. They had like an old mill on the premises. They had they were like centered on a limestone aquifer, just like Kentucky, right? So they had like everything they needed to make whiskey. So they're like, well, let's just start distilling this stuff. And it's complete, like he's the farmer and the master distiller. Like everything is just like, I want to say at one point, I don't know if this is still the case, but earlier when I covered them, I think they only had like, what was it, like 8 people running the whole show, which is pretty cool. Very small operation, a lot of heart in it. And this is what I love. These are some of my favorite craft distilleries, are the ones that are like that. Nothing against people who source, nothing against people who contract distill, whatever. I think that there's definitely people who do that extremely well, but I personally have a huge affinity for distilleries like this. And they like to use grains that are a little atypical, right? It's not just yellow dent corn. They're like, why not use, is it Oaxacan? Is that how you pronounce it? Oaxacan? And like emerald green corn, like all that kind of stuff. They get funky with it, which makes whiskey that stands out. And that's what I think you got to do if you're going to survive as a craft distillery these days. So visit their website. I think so this one right here, the Red Ryder Rye, as of the time I'm recording this, you can buy it from their website straight up. It's just it's one of the buy now options. It's in stock. So if you're like, hey, that sounds pretty good, you can pick it up. I think it's $84, like $80, something like that. Okay. Anyways, let's get in here. Yep, I love this. I will always love this whiskey. Very grain forward. Oh, I should tell you a little bit about the Red Ryder Rye, shouldn't I? It's a high rye mash bill, and then they include smoked, like applewood smoked oats, right? Applewood smoked oats in the mash as well. So winter rye, smoked oats, applewood smoked oats. That's the mash. This particular batch is 4 years and 3 months old, and comes in at 94 proof. I think 94 proof is the standard proof point for this bottle. So yeah, you're gonna pay $80 for it, but you're getting a very unique bottle, right? It's not just another bourbon or just another rye. It's going to be distinct. Like you put this in a lineup against literally my entire collection, and I'd pick it out. I'd be like, yeah, I know which one is the Red Ryder Rye. So that's what you're paying for. All the heart that goes into it. Nose is beautiful. Okay. I've shared stories like this before. The church I grew up at was like right on the edge of the city. So like half of our congregation was farming folks, right? Because the farming community was just outside of the the downtown area, the city area. And so that's where you had your more rural I can say this word, rural communities. And so some of my best friends from church like lived on farms. So I just go back home with them some Sundays, and my parents come pick me up later in the day. So I did some like farmhand stuff. And the nose of this just reminds me of being in a barn around harvest season. There's dust, like particulates floating in the air. Very grain forward, with the inclusion of like apples and whipped cream, right? Like apples and whipped cream on the nose. And the smoked oats, I mean, it's obvious, right? It's just like, yeah, you smell it. It smells a little smoky, like a little bit like a campfire. We do lots of fires at our house. It's one of our favorite ways to socialize in the neighborhood. We have a fire pit. We usually have it out in the backyard. Sometimes in the summertime, we'll pull it out into the front because a lot of people in our neighborhood like to take walks. So as people are walking by, they see the fire and empty chairs. They have a seat. Their kids run into the backyard and play with our kids. We just shoot the breeze. And usually I've got a few bottles of whiskey out there if anyone wants to try something. And this was, I mean, that's what this reminds me of on the nose, is being around a fire with friends. Now we taste it. Cheers. Yeah, I freaking adore this. Everything that we talked about on the nose, on the palate. And that smokiness, front and center. It's not overbearing, though. It just tastes like fall in the Midwest. That's what this tastes like. If you could take Midwest fall season and condense it into a whiskey, it's this one right here. Because you get the grain, the dustiness, the particulates floating in the air in harvest season, but you also get that appleiness that comes from our orchard visits that we do, especially in the Midwest. That's a very popular thing to do in the falls. We go to apple orchards, we pick fruit, spend a lot of time out on these farms just for these evening activities. That's this in a glass. And that's why I love it so much. But here's the interesting thing. This is what I've never had before. So this is the Red Ryder Rye minus the applewood smoked oats. Okay, so no applewood oats in here. This is just if you were to try their rye without their sort of like, if you could call it a gimmicky thing, but it's not a gimmick, but the thing that makes what they do unique. If you take that away, what are you left with? Is the whiskey pretty good? And this is at 112.4 proof, and it's not quite 4 years old. So 3 years, 8 months. And the nose is way different. The very first thing I actually think of is I like to make cocktails sometimes, like homemade orgeat, that kind of a syrup, a very thick, sugary, almondy kind of a thing. Think like maybe like sweet almond milk on the nose. Man, it's funny how orgeat-y this is. I think the actual pronunciation is like orza or something like that, but it's spelled O-R-G-E-A-T. So I've just always called it orgeat, and I've heard other people call it orgeat. So if it's wrong, it's wrong, whatever. But it's also somewhat floral as well. I mean, you get that thick, syrupy sweetness in the almond, but I'm also getting some slight floral notes that remind me of like hibiscus even. And even without the applewood smoked oats, I mean, applewood doesn't taste like an apple, to be fair. But even without that, I still kind of get this applesaucey kind of a note as well. Beautiful nose. Well, let's try it. Cheers. It's still pretty grain forward, but there's a ton of like sticky honey, like hits you like a wave in the mid palate, and it dies off a little bit into the finish. And that's where like a little bit of like tannic oak with some applesauce takes over, stretches out into the finish. Those like sweet almond orgeat notes are really right at the front as soon as it hits the tip of your tongue, and then they come right back well into the finish. It kind of resurfaces a little bit. I was worried I might not like this. When they take away the applewood smoked oats, I was worried I wouldn't like it nearly as much. This is definitely distinct from this. They're not the same, but they're very similar. But then they sort of like go different directions. It's like they start in the same place, but they end up somewhere completely different. So up front, it's fairly familiar, but the deviation is noticeable. And I like it quite a bit. That thick honey. Man, every time I take a sip of this, there's that wave of sticky honey that just hits me. Really like that. My kids are playing right above my head on the next floor, and it's loud. So if you can hear that, I apologize. That is dang good. Hey, Rockfilter, you guys are consistently putting out some of my favorite craft whiskey. Thank you so much for the time and the effort that goes into making this with a lot of heart and making it such a unique product. I highly encourage everyone, if you have not tried any Rockfilter stuff out, feel free to ping our Discord, especially if you're like one of our Patreon members. A lot of the guys in our Patreon group, by the way, the base tier, that's $1. Like, it's basically free. Anyways, you get into the Patreon lounge and Discord, ping those guys. Some of them have some Rockfilter stuff. They may be willing to find a way to swap some samples with you. And that's one of the things I love about our community. Is like, hey, you want to try something, dude? Yeah, try something. I've got guys who are literally recently sharing like BTAC pours. It's like, where else are you gonna go that people are like, yeah, man, try some of this. A lot of like the whiskey tasting nights and clubs and stuff like that, many of us are just not plugged into something like that regularly. So it's great to have an online resource, an online community that you can access anytime with wonderful people, with wonderful collections who just want to help you try good juice. So click the link to our Discord in the description. Just getting in there is totally free. If you want to take it to the next level, you definitely can. There's a link to the Patreon as well. All that to say, thank you so much, Robert, for supplying the samples for today's video. Appreciate you, brother. And I say cheers, my friends. May you live richly and get better with age. And hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.